I've received many queries from members of our community with regard to visiting the elderly parents or grandparents or great-grandparents. I just want to say a few words about that. I think it's very important that our elderly in our community do receive visits from their children and from their grandchildren. Unfortunately, Sandringham Gardens and our parents' home had to be in lockdown. They, of course, do a very vulnerable population. It's not only the elderly, but also people who are immunosuppressed and have underlying medical conditions, which make them very vulnerable to the severe consequences of coronavirus infection. We know that, for example, the mortality rate is very much higher in the elderly. Even from the age of 70 to 79, it goes up from about 2% all the way up to 8%. Once we get to the 80-year-olds and above, it goes all the way up to 14% or 15%. So I think we do need to kind of be very aware of that and to try and protect the elderly. In some countries, for example, the United Kingdom, they've advised all the elderly, well, say elderly over the age of 70 or sometimes even 65, to go into isolation. I think that's not, I think it is quite wrong, because I think the elderly, they do value. I think it's necessary that they do have visits from their children and grandchildren. However, having said that, I think it is very important to be meticulous about instituting those preventive hygiene measures which we've advocated for preventing infection. So especially with the elderly, I think it's important, particularly for young children, and not to abrogate these protective measures. I think, for example, I think social distancing, keeping at least 6 feet apart from the elderly. I think we need to explain to them the reason for this, that we are faced with a serious threat. Keeping it that social distance of 6 feet apart, hand washing, and particularly look after the young children, that there is no physical contact, to try and limit that. And provided that we do undertake these very important hygienic preventive measures, I think we should go ahead, and I'd like to encourage that in these circumstances, that one does encourage visits to the elderly, those elderly who are living on their own, of course, not those in institutions, as I mentioned before.